into the dark days are over. All right, so we got why did everyone hate the Primaris Marines? Please, guys, follow my Twitch down below, and let's go.
2017, with the dawn of 8th edition quickly approaching, we got our first glimpse into a new era of Space Marines. But these Space Marines didn't look like any that had come before. They were taller, stronger, slicker, and came in a scale that made them look far more accurate to what they would actually look like in real life compared to their bulky, chunky predecessors. These new Primaris Marines, as they would come to be called, debuted in the Dark Imperium launch box set for the new edition, alongside the debut of new sculpts for the Death Guard. Now at the time, hype for these models was super high. They looked absolutely incredible, and Space Marine players were clamoring to get their hands on them. This was back in the good old days where if you wanted a box set from GW, it wasn't really difficult to get a hold of. Hell, you could get multiple copies of it with relative ease. I'll just say that as a Chaos Space Marine enjoyer who was all ready to go all in on the Death.
Oh, that looks hard. That looks, yo, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I've been looking at like some of these prices for like these, like, you know, like actual figures and stuff like that, man. Oh my goodness, yo, they'll make your wallet scream for help. I promise you. These models, oh my goodness.
I remember having at least 15 different people at my local store offer to go splitsies with me on the box. The Space Marine half of the 8th edition.
Hey, y'all know, listen, I don't recommend people do this, man, but I would be finessing out there. Yo, I will buy like a model for like 100. I'll be like, oh man, yeah. Yo, you really want to buy it, bro? Okay, well, you know, I'm actually selling this for $600. 600 what? Yeah, $600. You want this or not? Yo, listen, man, I bought it for $550. Now, to be honest with you, bro, I could work out a trade, you know. Yo, you want it for $600? You know, I could give it to you for $600. Yeah, I'll be finessing.
Launch box was in such high demand that it wasn't uncommon to see the Loyalist half going for almost the entire price of the box set.
I'm playing. I'll give it to, yo, I'll be fair.
Whereas the Death Guard half was selling for like $50. But this isn't a video about the Death Guard or how me and other Death Guard players got an absolutely killer deal on a brand new army. This is about the Primaris Marines and the resulting controversy that would have long-lasting implications, as although that initial excitement was absolutely insane, it wouldn't last forever. In fact, as soon as that honeymoon phase ended, the excitement would begin to be replaced with a wave of bitter and spiteful hatred. Primaris hate became so commonplace that it was almost impossible to find somebody defending their existence. And I remember pretty clearly just hanging out at my store, if you were talking about Space Marines or the Imperium in general, it wouldn't take long for 6 people to pop out of the woodwork to let you know just how much they hated the Primaris. Not only were they a frequent topic of conversation in local stores, but Primaris hate threads were also common on every online discussion board designed around Warhammer. In my personal opinion, their introduction was the most controversial thing that had happened in all of Warhammer, next to the destruction of the old world over in Warhammer Fantasy. So I'm guessing that if you're brand new to 40K, as in you just found the franchise within the last couple of years, this probably seems super confusing to you.
I'm like,
you might even be surprised to learn that there was any backlash at all, considering that Primaris hate has mostly fallen out of fashion. But why was this? Why did all of that hype degrade into absolute hatred? Why was there so much backlash against the Primaris Marines, and what impact did their introduction have on the franchise going forward? We're gonna get into all that and a whole lot more, but first a quick shout out to this video's sponsor. If you know anything about me, then you know I'm the type of guy that absolutely loves deep diving into the lore of all of—
Hey, we all know, listen, y'all know Westhammer, our boy, you know, hey, whenever he have a sponsor or video, whatever, yeah, hey, we let those things play through, man. Hey, yeah, Westhammer, man, get your bag. Hey, Westhammer, get your bag, bro. Yo, we not hating that. Hey, make sure y'all go check out Westhammer, and also if you're not subscribed to me, make sure you guys subscribe to me right now. But yeah, yo, we let Westhammer get his bag off. We know we got bills to pay. We know. Hey, yo, you don't gotta explain to us. We know.
My favorite games. But I will admit that over the years, that's come with a sacrifice. Storing all of that gaming knowledge in my head has basically made it so I don't have room for much else. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like if I had spent that time learning something actually useful like programming. Well, thankfully there's the good people over at today's sponsor, boot.dev, that want to make learning back-end web development as fun and engaging as gaming, as what better way is there to learn something than actually having fun doing it? Boot.dev is an online self-paced system designed to get you programming and writing code by turning the learning process into a role-playing game. where you write real code and ship projects, complete with leveling up, achievements, and even leaderboards. Not only is boot.dev fun and engaging, but the skills that you learn through it are applicable in a wide range of careers in our modern world. Did you know that according to Stack Overflow, the median salary for backend developers in the United States in 2023 was over $100,000?
Damn.
Kinda makes me wish I picked a different major in college, if I'm being honest. And there's no risk to trying it out yourself, as the people over at boot.dev never want a student feeling like they spent money on something that wasn't helping them. So they offer both a free demo of every course and its interactive features, as well as a 30-day no questions asked refund policy. So what are you waiting for? Click on the link in the description below and use my code WESTHAMMER to get 25% off your first payment for boot.dev. That's 25% off your first month or first year, depending on the subscription that you choose. Big thanks to boot.dev for sponsoring this video.
All right, here we go, let's go.
Warhammer 40K is one of those franchises where there's never a single easy answer for pretty much any question you could possibly ask.
True.
You may think that a lore question, for example, is simply a yes or no type of question, and then you find out there's actually some super obscure article in a long-forgotten White Dwarf written back in 1996 that adds hundreds of layers of complexity to whatever your question may be. The same can be said of the Primaris Space Marine controversy. There was no single reason why a large portion of the community rejected them, and their introduction caused so much backlash. But in order to keep this video simple, I think we can categorize all of these various factors into three major categories, that being the financial backlash, changes to the lore, and the player's emotional connection to certain characters and factions seemingly being disrespected. We'll get the financial side of things out of the way first, as there's really not that much to talk about, but it is worth mentioning so you have the complete picture. Warhammer models have always been expensive. There's nothing new there. And Games Workshop is constantly coming out with new models that they want us as the players to purchase and add to our collection. And oftentimes, they are guilty of using some pretty underhanded tactics to get us to buy them. Now, right now, for example, in 2024, they've seen the success of FOMO marketing, meaning the fear of missing out, and have leaned into it harder than ever before. It seems like literally everything they sell now is FOMO, limited time only, available only while supplies last.
You know, I think that's the case. Wait, hold up. Let me see if I'm good. All right. I think that's the case because like there's more people joining like Warhammer. Like I would never, I didn't even know what Warhammer was like 3 years ago. I just feel like that's more people joining Warhammer and like, really getting invested into the hobby and stuff like that. Because obviously like, and I don't know how many people like, statistically whatever, but I'm guessing that like a lot of people, from like the Space Marine game, because that's where I came from. I came from the Space Marine game into Warhammer, and all this was just accidentally. I didn't have no plan to just hop into Warhammer lore or whatever. I came from the Space Marine 2 game, so having like a bunch of people join the Warhammer community every single year, and then them wanting to grab models and stuff like that. I mean, it makes sense,
out in pre-order, etc., etc.
It makes sense.
And now that they've encountered actual shipping issues and demand is higher than it has ever been, as well as a massive influx of scalpers, the artificial scarcity.
But that's everything though. You like, people have to understand that and obviously people who are really dedicated to Warhammer, bro. I'm talking about the Warhammer. Like they have everything Warhammer, in the room. They got all the Warhammer books and everything. This is their thing. For people that are like that, bro, they gotta be fast. They gotta beat everybody. Because bro, you have people who have like bots who buy everything. Then once they buy everything, they resell it. And obviously people are creating these bots to buy everything, and then they resell everything and like double the price. And obviously nobody wants to buy it, but at the same time, there's those little people, who would do anything just to get that new model, or just to get the new book, or just to get the new whatever, and they'll spend double the price. They'll basically get finessed actually. So it's just crazy how and that's what everything with shoes, consoles, everything. So
that they created has run into actual scarcity.
It's scary.
And created a veritable show where nobody can get any of the models or books that they actually want. However, the far more infamous Games Workshop strategy of selling miniatures that is more applicable to the Primaris controversy is making the new models stronger than the old ones. Now, I should clarify before getting into this that Games Workshop updates their kits all the time. They'll take a model that was originally created back in the 90s and release a new version of it with modern modeling techniques.
That's actually a nice upgrade. I like that a lot.
These new models always look fantastic, and I think the majority of the community would agree that objectively they are better than the old ones, even if people like myself are particularly nostalgic for those old sculpts. The existence of a new version of a unit doesn't have any bearing on your pre-existing army. It simply exists as an option for you to upgrade to if you decide you like the look of the new sculpts. For example, you can still run all of your old Chaos Space Marines when the new kit comes out, so long as they're on the right base size. And even then, most of the time that doesn't really matter for casual games. So with all of that in mind, here's where things get complicated with the Primaris. It looked like all of these new Primaris kits were basically just remakes of existing Space Marine kits, but had been upgraded to the new heroic scale with all of Games Workshop's modern modeling techniques. But they were specifically calling them something different and giving them different names, so they were technically a different unit. And of course, they were objectively better in every aspect to the models that Space Marine players already owned. So suddenly, these new updated kits were not simply an option you could choose to engage with or ignore. They were mandatory. If you had any hope of playing in a tournament and not coming in dead last, you needed to shell out hundreds of dollars for the new models. And the implication from Games Workshop was that this was not a one-off thing. Going forward, everything would be Primarisified. Past that first starter box, if you were a Space Marine player, you were going to need to replace literally every model you had, over time potentially costing you thousands of dollars on something that you've already purchased.
Yeah, I see. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I actually see why they don't like it. I understand now.
Knew what they were doing with the Primaris Marines, as they could have just called these new kits for Vanguard veterans, Devastators, TAC Marines, or any other pre-existing Space Marine unit. But they didn't. They were very specifically a nearly identical unit with suspiciously better stat lines. I should clarify that back then and even today, you can run a mix of new and old Marines. The Firstborn haven't been entirely phased out yet, but every year that goes by, we get dozens of new Primaris kits, and more of the Firstborn get confined to legend status. Even in the beginning, it seemed very—
So it's kind of like a finesse in a way. Yo, Games Workshop, man, y'all some finesses.
Clear that going forward, every iconic Firstborn unit was gonna get a Primaris replacement. Sure, you could and still can run TAC Marines if you want, but for 1 or 2 more points, you could have an objectively better troop choice with the Intercessors. This did not sit well with Space Marine players. In fact, it didn't really sit well with the entirety of the community, because even if you didn't play Space Marines, this set a pretty dangerous precedent going forward. That at any moment,
at any moment, the thing that you paid hundreds or thousands of dollars can legit be not worthless, but it can be like you can like lose with that. Like it wow. Okay, I understand. Okay. I'm gonna be honest with you. Hey. Okay. I understand y'all paying, bro. I understand y'all paying. That makes sense. Wow. So it's legit like a finesse. It's a finesse. Bro, hey, say what y'all want, but that's a finesse. That's some finesse-ish right there, bro. Wow. That's crazy. So like the thing that you spent hundreds of dollars, the thing that you spent hundreds of dollars on next week, it's not funny because it's really messed up. You go to the tabletop, you send everything up, you're like, all right, let's go. You put the thing forward, he's like, oh yeah, hey, I beat him. He's like, nah, but this thing is worth like how many points? He's like, not as in today. Yeah, that thing's worthless. Yeah, that bro, he's weak. Yeah, you gotta get the new model. The new model. I just picked up the new. They build a new model, bro. Let me see the new model. And bro pulls out the. He goes in his bag. He pulls out the new model. He said, "Oh, this is the new model." Bro's slightly. Hey, it's the exact same model, but bro's slightly bigger.
Action could be next. Your army could suddenly one day get Primarisified, and you'd have to rebuy the entire thing. To a lot of people, this looked like a blatant cash grab.
It's a finesse. It's a finesse
that Games Workshop was doing while showing an enormous amount of disrespect towards their loyal fan base. To play devil's advocate though, I will try to be fair to Games Workshop here, as through talking to some of my local store owners, I've gotten a wide degree of different opinions on the Primaris Marines, and my buddy Don, who runs the store where I film all of my videos, told me that in his opinion, the Primaris Marines needed to happen. The new kits that were coming out at the time didn't match the old ones. The modeling techniques had changed, and there was this weird disconnect between the old models and the new ones, and everybody was complaining about it. By coming out with something that was technically a new thing, it made sense why they looked different. They came up with a lore reason for why the scale had changed, and in his words, it was a painful thing for the community, but it needed to happen. And their introduction was like ripping the figurative band-aid off all at once. And I'm not as plugged into the community as an actual store owner, so I think there's a lot of wisdom in what he was saying. But speaking of the lore of the Primaris Marines, we have to get into the real meat and potatoes of why they were initially so hated. Now, the money aspect is one thing. Nobody likes having their time and wallet disrespected.
True.
But more so the lore that had been created to justify the Primaris' existence in the first place.
Oh, they came up with a story. They tried to cover it up. Oh, bro, they tried to put icing on dog poop. Oh, man. They tried to cover it up.
And move the story forward seem to be disrespecting something that, in my opinion, is much more important. The player or fan's emotional investment in their favorite faction. We're going to talk about the lore that they implemented, but this isn't really a video about the lore of the Primaris Marines, more so the controversy surrounding their creations. So I'm going to keep this brief and simple. So it turns out that Robute Guiliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, before being wounded by Fulgrim and placed into stasis for 10,000 years, had instructed Archmagos Belisarius Cawl to craft for him a new legion of warriors, the next step in evolution for the Space Marines. He was supposed to improve upon the Emperor's designs, and in order to do this, Guiliman gave him an artifact known as the Sang Primus Portum, which would allow Cawl access to all of the Emperor's notes and information surrounding the Primarchs themselves. With access to that information, as well as several other unique STCs, he would eventually create the Primaris Marines, although there were a lot of missteps along the way, and it took over 10,000 years for his project to finally bear fruit. Eventually, Guiliman would be resurrected, and he would announce the Indomitus Crusade to take back Imperium Nihilus after the formation of the Great Rift. And right before the crusade could get fully underway, Cawl revealed to him the Primaris Marines in all of their glory upon his Arch Mechanicus known as the Tsar Quasitator. They were bigger, faster, and stronger than any Marines that had come before. And more importantly, due to Cawl's access to the genetic information of all of the Primarchs, they were far more genetically stable as well. Specifically, all of the iconic gene defects that plagued many of the chapters were non-existent. Blood Angel Primaris Marines didn't suffer from the Red Thirst or the Black Rage, and Space Wolves were immune to the curse of the Wolfen. All of these Marines would end up being sent out to every single chapter to bring them back up to chapter strength and replenish all of their losses. We would end up entering a new age of Warhammer, and for the first time in a really long time, the storyline was actually moving forward. Because bear in mind that what Warhammer players were used to was all of the new stories that came out were conveniently being told to have happened at some indeterminate point. We stood still at the battle for Cadia for almost 2 decades. So, several things with this. Although Belisarius Cawl is one of the greatest Warhammer 40K characters in existence, that's a hill I'll die on every single day, his introduction did kinda sorta come out of nowhere. He had never been spoken about in any context before 2017, but supposedly he was over 10,000 years old and had been there since.
What do you guys think? Hey, keep it real, keep it honest. What do y'all think? I want y'all actual opinion on this, man. What do y'all think about this? Keep it real. Keep it real, bro. Because it sounds like they tried to, finesse and then come up with a story or like come up with like a part of being like, oh, well, yeah, like we haven't, like you guys never heard of this guy before, but we're still going to like give him a little lore. Like, it's like they just opened the book and just threw us lore in there. That's it. Like, come on, bro. Like, it sounds like a little finesse to me.
The very beginning. A lot of Warhammer fans were put off by this. From their perspective, who the hell was this random Mary Sue character that Games Workshop invented to justify their new models? The last time anybody tried to improve upon the Emperor's designs, we wound it up with the Dark Founding that created all kinds of wild and crazy mutations, and thus it was never attempted again. Is all that just suddenly being retconned now? The other big thing was with the whole gene defects no longer being a thing. Now, even if the lore portrays them as a negative thing, to us as the audience, those flaws are what give the Space Marine chapters so much character. The Blood Angels are freaking Space Marine vampires, and you're telling me that they don't thirst for blood anymore? Are they just a bunch of Space Marine vegetarians now, Games Workshop? What the fuck are you thinking? Why would you think this is a good thing? The actual story itself is one thing, but more so it was the unspoken implication in the lore that really got under a lot of people's skin. The story was telling us that this next evolution in Space Marine technology was going to be the mainstay. All new Marines going forward would be produced as Primaris Marines, and the Firstborns would be slowly phased out over time in universe and in the real world. It was like Games Workshop was telling us that all of the characters that we've grown to love over the years, whether they be Space Marines from the stories that we've read, or characters that we made up, characters that were part of our army's personal lore, or maybe Space Marines that we created for an RPG or fanfiction or whatever, the lore was telling us that they no longer mattered, that they weren't important, that they were going to die and be phased out and forgotten. GW was dangling the Primaris in front of us. Look at these new shiny fancy Marines. They're better in every single way, and that's all you really care.
Forcing y'all to move on. They say, ooh, they think, ooh, they like stuff shiny. Let's just put a bunch of shiny stuff in their face and they'll buy it. That's
about right. Just how strong something is. Quit your complaining. Forget about all that nasty old stuff and buy our new models. The emotional connection that we have to our favorite characters, for some people, is really important.
Y'all.
It's what gives the franchise so much meaning to us. And to have this company not only disrespect that and completely disregard these players' feelings, but to do it in a way just to make a quick buck, I want to say it's insulting, but that's not the right word. It was so much more than that. It was revolting. And even though I'm not the biggest loyalist Space Marine guy, I can sympathize with the people who are, who had been collecting them for years and had not just a huge time and financial investment.
Hey, just sidetrack. He got Swiss cheese. Oh my goodness.
Them, but had a super deep emotional investment as well. And at the time, it seemed like that was all just being spat on, which kind of sucked. There was, however, one silver lining to all of this that down the road would prove to be what made the Primaris Marines actually kind of cool. But at the time, it didn't really seem that great. It was stated that it was theoretically possible for a Firstborn Marine to become a Primaris Marine and receive all of the additional upgrades through an experimental surgery, but Belisarius Call estimated that the odds of survival were about 1 in 3, and even then, that was being pretty generous. Famously, Marnius Calgar, chapter master of the Ultramarines, was the first
Lord Calgary. Oh snap.
First to volunteer to undergo the procedure, and after it was deemed a success, it was opened up to other Space Marines as well. Now, considering that every major named character would get a re-released Primarisified model, what this looked like at the time to the players was that named characters deemed important by Games Workshop would end up surviving the process.
Y'all see him over here? Bro, look how tall, look how strong he looks. Look at this. Oh my goodness, bro. I just want to, bro, this is making me blush right now, yo.
Because of course they would. But all of your made up characters or characters that you liked from the books that never got a model, they were probably gonna die. So after all that, it may come as a surprise that all of the hatred for Primaris Marines and the constant whinging and whining about them has mostly fallen out of fashion and been forgotten, as we all kind of got used to the new normal. But their launch did leave a pretty bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. And to this day, there are still a lot of people that feel betrayed by Games Workshop and hate everything the Primaris Marines represent. First impressions like that are really hard for a lot of people to shake, especially when it comes to a franchise like Warhammer. But like I said, as time has gone on, most people have kind of forgotten about all this and seem to enjoy the Primaris Marines and their storyline. But why is that? What exactly changed? Well, quite simply, it's that their lore has progressively been moving forward and adapting ever since.
I mean, bro, it's time. I mean, they're not going to be mad at one thing forever. I mean, bro, time goes by. I mean, that's just time. Like, they added lore and they just kept moving. They just kept going.
Their initial launch. A lot has changed with the Primaris Marines, and a lot of the things that we were originally told about them have turned out to not actually be true. First and foremost, the immunity to the gene defects, well, turns out that was just wishful thinking, as we did in fact get Primaris Death Company for the Blood Angels a little while later, indicating that these newcomers were just as susceptible to the Black Rage as their older siblings. More importantly though, as time has gone on, the process of a firstborn becoming a Primaris Marine has gotten progressively safer and safer, to the point now where it's considered weird and taboo if a Space Marine doesn't choose to become a Primaris, especially if they hold any form of notable rank. As I mentioned earlier, the original odds of surviving the procedure were stated at being 1 out of 3, and this was stated in the campaign supplement book Vigilus Defiant. By the time of the novel Darkness in the Blood, we were told that the odds of survival had increased to about 60%, and by the time of the novel Godblight, although we are not given an exact figure, the process is stated at being significantly safer, though admittedly not completely risk-free. It's important to bear in mind that all 3 of these examples happened in a period of about 15 years, and in that time, the success rate has more than doubled and potentially almost tripled. Give it another 10 to 20 years, which is barely the blink of an eye in the grand scheme of
that's like 100%.
Warhammer 40K, and we'll be as close as you can possibly get to a 100% success rate. But why were those success rates so low to begin with? Well, quite simply, the surgery required to turn a firstborn into a Primaris Marine is ridiculously invasive. The operation tearing the Space Marine apart. Their black carapace has to be completely removed, their bones have to be liquefied, and at one point, they literally need to die before having the Belisarian furnace shoved in between both of their hearts and then shocked back to life. Fun fact, when this happened to the chief librarian of the Blood Angels, Mephiston, something went wrong with his hearts and they wouldn't start beating again. So a pair of sanguinary priests literally had to massage them by hand until they could get his pulse back. I'm planning on doing a video on crossing the Rubicon later in the future, so we'll get into all of the details in that one. In the meantime, just picture the most horrific possible surgery that you can, and that's basically what they have to go through. I tell you all of this because experimental surgeries like that in the real world don't normally start off with super high success rates. They normally go up over time. I'm not a medical history buff, and maybe somebody in the comment section may know a lot more about this than I do, but I'm pretty confident that the first few attempts at open heart surgery probably also didn't go so well, and it probably took a long time for their success rates to reach a satisfactory level.
Bro, man, like I don't know like what age, I said age, I don't know like what year like anesthesia and stuff like that was made, but bro, like imagine like you break something and they gotta do surgery on you without anesthesia. Oh my goodness. Oh my, yo, imagine.
The same kind of thing is happening here with the Primaris Marines, and with each passing year, the success rate goes up and up. At this point in the timeline, there is still a distinction between Primaris and Firstborn, but give or take a few more decades and that distinction will pretty much be meaningless. All of the old Marines will have crossed the Rubicon, and all of the new ones will have been made Primaris in the first place, and at that point, there will be no reason to distinguish them at all. They will all just be Space Marines again. In the process of making this video, I tried to channel all of that negativity that I and many others felt back in 2017. I tried to tap into what everybody was feeling back then and how betrayed they felt by Games Workshop. But I'm just gonna be honest with you, here in 2024, I actually really like the Primaris Marines, and this may sound incredibly stupid, but in retrospect, I think I kinda like how they were handled. I think it may have actually been kind of brilliant. They came in like a wrecking ball and disrupted everything, and for lack of better words, pissed us all off. And this is kind of similar to what I imagine their unveiling must have been like to the other Space Marines and prominent members of the Imperium in the story itself. Some of them saw them as the next step forward, a light in the darkness that would lead humanity into the future and bring death to all of its enemies, whereas others looked at them with a severe level of mistrust and even outright hatred. We were told that they were perfect in every conceivable way, immune to degradation and the genetic defects of the Space Marines of the past. Yet slowly over time, the cracks in their perfect veneer began to show, and their genetic legacy, their chapter's curse, would be revealed.
Look at the goat. I just wanted to look at the goat right there, yo.
To have only been in remission, coming back in full force. I kinda like that we had to watch in real time as improvements were made to the procedure to turn a firstborn into a Primaris. That at first it was super dangerous, but now that after the procedure's been done thousands of times over, it's at the point now where a Space Marine player can have a fully Primaris army and say that they're all firstborn veterans, and that totally lines up with the lore. There's no conflict there. Not to mention the lore impact that the Primaris Marines have had on their enemies, as we've gotten a lot of really interesting stories out of them. From Harrowmaster, where the Alpha Legion first encounters them and freaks out because their intel didn't say anything about these new Marines and they don't know what to do, to Fabius Bile's trilogy, where Abaddon is demanding an answer to them, a chaos equivalent, and Bile is like, nah, Space Marines suck, I'm gonna make something even crazier. I think all of that is so much cooler than Games Workshop back in 2017 having
this guy right here. Just say thanks to this guy. This guy right here is a reason why I'm actually into Warhammer right now. Just say thanks to him. Okay, say thank you to him.
Just re-released old kits. But what do you think of all this? Were you a member of the Warhammer community when the Primaris Marines first came out? How did they make you feel when you first saw them?
No, I was not a member of the Warhammer community whenever the Primaris first came out. I was actually a member of the Warhammer community once Space Marine 2 actually came out. I was actually really excited about the game. I was actually part of the Warhammer community before Space Marine 2 came out, but I was on the video game side. I still am on the video game side, but I'm just learning more about the lore and stuff like that. But obviously, like, you know, bro, I'm ready, bro. We're ready for a new Space Marine 3. I don't care what you guys say. Listen, I know y'all haven't seen me play whatever. We're gonna play whenever I live on, I live stream on Twitch. But you gotta follow me on Twitch down below. But listen, I'm ready for like a whole new Space Marine 3 game. I don't care what you say. Other than that, man, comment down below. What do you guys think about this? Shout out to my boy Westhammer for the video, and go check him out. And is this it from Westhammer, or no? Do you have some more to say?
What was your opinion on them back then, and has it changed at all in recent years? Do you like the Primaris Marines, or do you think they were ultimately a mistake?
Let's be honest though, Games Workshop, they tried to finesse. I love it. I mean, technically they did, but you know, it is what it is.
If you were going to move the storyline forward and change the Space Marines, how would you have handled it?
I love it, by the way.
What direction would you like to see Games Workshop go with the Primaris Marines in the future? I've been wanting to do a lore video on the Primaris for a really long time, but Games Workshop has been super stingy with giving us actual concrete details on them.
Man, them boys is nasty.
And all of their equipment. So I had been putting it off, but I just started the Dawn of Fire series recently, and I think there's enough information in there to do a deep dive on them. So that's on the list of videos I want to produce in the future, and if that's something you'd be interested in, then definitely let me know about it in the comment section down below, and we'll make that happen. If you've been watching my content for a while and you haven't subscribed,
shout out to my boy again, Westhammer, for the video. Other than that, man, I'm gonna see y'all for the next one I'm out. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you guys follow my Twitch down below, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel. And peace.